Earache. It was a sunny autumn afternoon and Dolly decided to go and see her friend Berry.
I'm going down to the stream to collect pebbles. Do you want to come?
But Berry didn't feel like going out to play.
I don't know, Dolly. I'm very cold and I've got a headache and my ears really hurt. Oh, Berry, your ears are all red, Dolly said. And you've got a temperature. I'll fly and fetch Dr. Owl.
The ladybird flew straight to Dr. Owl's tree.
Dr. Owl, you need to come quickly. Berry feels very poorly.
Dr. Owl quickly packed his doctor's bag, put on his white coat and hurried to see the sickly snail.
Hello there, Berry. Let me have a look at you. I need to listen to your chest.
So Berry took off his pyjama top and breathed in like the doctor said.
Open wide. I need to look at your throat now.
I don't want to,
Berry snapped.
But I have to see if it's red or not,
Dr. Owl explained and shone a torch down the little snail's throat.
And now I'll take a peek inside your ear.
This was really too much for Berry. He started to cry and clamped his hands over his ears.
Don't be silly, Berry. It won't hurt a bit.
And Dolly held Berry's hand to make him feel better. She was right. It didn't hurt a bit.
Well, Berry,
Dr. Owl explained,
you've bad earache. You've gone and caught a nasty cold. You need to have a spoonful of this medicine every day. Drink lots of sweet tea and put bags of warm wheat on your ears.
Berry's friends came to help him right away. Balthazar brought honey, Flutter brought chamomile flowers, and Stanley brought rose hips, and they made tea for the patient. Dolly warmed the wheat in a pan and poured it into little cloth bags.
Hold these on your ears until they cool down.
Berry put the bags on and didn't take them off until they cooled down. Next morning, Dolly found a handful of shiny pebbles on Berry's table.
Wow, Berry, lovely pebbles. Who gave you these?
I found them down by the stream, Berry said proudly.
You went down to the stream?
Dolly asked angrily.
That was very silly, Berry. You're still not better. You'll get sick again.
And Dolly was right. Berry was soon back in bed with a temperature. His little friends came to visit him every day. They read him stories and put on puppet shows. But just as Berry started to get better, Dolly started feeling worse. Now she'd got earache, and this time Berry took care of Dolly. He made her tea and warmed the wheat bags for her ears. Now it was time for Dr. Owl to pay Dolly a visit.
Gracious me! It seems we have a new patient. I think you must have caught it from Berry.
He told Dolly exactly what to do. Then he took another quick look at Berry.
You look well enough, but I'll examine you just in case. Everything's fine. You've made a full recovery, little snail.
Another few days passed. Dolly did as she was told and took her medicine. She drank plenty of tea and stayed in bed, and she soon felt much better. Dr. Owl came to see her one last time and told her she was fine.
So now we can go down to the stream together and collect pebbles.
Berry was very excited.
Hooray! Let's all go down to the stream!
Dr. Owl's 3 chicks tweeted.
Remember to dress up nice and warm. It's cold outside.
But there was no need to warn Dolly and Berry. They both wore a scarf, a hat and warm boots. They stayed and played until it got dark and collected a whole bucket full of shiny pebbles.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Sea adventure. One summer day, Berry the snail and Dolly the ladybird found a colourful storybook. It was packed with pretty pictures of the sea swimming with fish and crabs. And there was another strange animal that Berry had never seen.
It's called an octopus, but I've never seen a real one either.
Why don't we go to the sea? Berry asked excitedly.
But we don't know where the sea is, Berry.
I know, let's ask Dr. Owl. He knows everything. Do you know how to get to the sea, Dr. Owl?
You need to build a boat and sail down the stream. The stream will take you to the river, and the river flows right into the sea.
Berry and Dolly thanked Dr. Owl for his advice and got to work right away. The 3 owl chicks happily helped them build their boat. The 2 friends jumped in, and the stream carried them all the way to the sea. Hooray! We're going to see the sea! The wind blew their boat down the stream and then the river. It wasn't long before the vast blue sea was right in front of them. We're here! Yelled Berry. He pulled the boat to the shore and tied it to a palm tree. Come on, Dolly, let's dive to the bottom of the sea. The 2 friends saw all kinds of incredible creatures under the sea. They spotted a big crab and followed it to the surface.
Excuse me, can you tell us where we can find a real octopus?
Asked Dolly.
Hold on to my pincers, and I'll show you the little island where the octopus likes to sunbathe.
The crab helped them to the island and swam away. The octopus was much bigger than they'd imagined, and it frightened them. Berry and Dolly hid behind a big rock. Then the octopus had a good idea. It picked up some pebbles and started to juggle them with its 8 tentacles. The little ladybird and the snail crept out from behind the rock.
Come over here,
The octopus said.
I'll show you the prettiest pebbles on my island.
Berry and Dolly quickly made friends with the octopus, and they all had so much fun.
It's time for us to go,
Said Dolly.
Goodbye. It was very nice to meet you.
Bye-bye,
Replied the octopus, and gave them both a shiny pebble each. Berry and Dolly got into the boat and tried to paddle away, but it was too hard.
Oh dear, Berry, we won't be able to manage. We'll have to get out of the boat.
Dolly was really scared.
See, Berry, I told you we shouldn't have sailed so far from home.
I think you're right, Dolly. But then the stone started to move.
Why are you so sad, little snail?
The stone asked. This made Berry laugh. It wasn't a stone after all. It was a turtle.
My friends, the rainbow fish, are about to begin their long journey. They'll swim up the stream all the way to the source. I'm sure they'd be happy to take you with them.
Berry and Dolly said goodbye to the turtle and sat on the back of the captain fish. Then they all set off on their way home. By the time it was getting dark, the fish had reached the clearing where the ladybird's spotty house stood. Berry and Dolly thanked the fish for their help, and they swam away. See, Dolly, all's well that ends well, the little snail said wisely.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The Canary Chicks. One day, Christopher the Canary met Chloe, and they fell in love. Chloe lived in an oak tree not far away from Dolly's house. The new couple built a nest on the most beautiful branch of the tree. Berry and Dolly watched them building their nest from the ground.
Look, Chloe's been sitting on the nest for days. Do you think she could be sick?
The little snail asked.
No, Berry. I'm sure she's going to lay eggs and they'll hatch into canary chicks,
Dolly told him enthusiastically. Eggs? Chicks? Berry was confused.
Of course. Chloe will lay the eggs in the nest and she'll keep them warm until they hatch,
the ladybird said. A few days later, Chloe stood up, and as she was arranging things in the nest, Berry noticed 3 tiny eggs.
3! There'll be 3 chicks,
he said to Dolly cheerfully. One morning they heard tweeting coming from the oak tree.
Hooray! The chicks have hatched,
Dolly exclaimed and gave Berry a big hug.
Can we take a look at them?
Dolly asked Christopher excitedly.
Of course you can, but please be careful. They're still very tiny,
the proud daddy replied. Christopher let Berry and Dolly hop on his back and he flew them up to the nest.
They're so cute,
Dolly whispered. The snail and the ladybird carefully patted the baby canaries. The little birds grew very quickly and they were soon ready for flying lessons. Chloe was their teacher and they got better day by day.
We've got to go and get some food. Be good,
Christopher told the chicks one morning. And don't even think about flying out of the nest without us. You're still very small and you can only fly with us, Chloe added. But the smallest chick was rather naughty.
Nonsense! I'm very good at flying. I'm going to try it on my own,
he said and jumped out of the nest.
You're not allowed! You're not allowed!
Tweeted the other 2, but they couldn't stop him. The 2 chicks were hopping nervously around the nest when their parents arrived back.
He flew off! Our little brother flew off!
They cried.
Oh dear, but he's too small. He could be in all kinds of trouble,
Chloe cried. Berry and Dolly heard all the fuss and set out to find the naughty chick. They looked for him everywhere, on the hill, in the mountains, by the lake, in the forest and in the meadow, but he was nowhere to be found.
How are we going to find him when it gets dark?
Chloe asked, and she started to sob. But then, little lights appeared in the sky. The fireflies had come to help them.
We can make light. We'll help you find him,
they said.
There he is! There he is in the bush!
Berry shouted suddenly, and they all ran over. The little canary had fallen asleep in the bush. He was exhausted and shivering. Chloe took him in her wings and hugged him happily.
There you are. You should always do as you're told,
Christopher said. Chloe flew back to the nest with her chick on her back, and the fireflies danced around them like stars in the sky. The canary family was soon back together again.
Good night, little chicks,
Chloe whispered happily as she kept them warm under her wings.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Bubbles' Tower. It was a lovely summer afternoon and Bubble the baby beetle decided to play with his colourful building blocks.
I'm going to build a tall tower with my blocks,
he thought to himself and carried them to a hill nearby. He tipped the bright blocks out of their box in the shade of a big oak tree. As the tower grew, it was harder and harder for Bubble to reach the top. He had to stand on tiptoe and was just reaching for the top when his hand slipped and the tower tumbled to the ground.
Oh no,
Bubble complained.
Now I have to start all over again.
So the baby beetle started again from the beginning. The tower soon began to grow and was very tall indeed. But oh dear, an acorn from the oak tree knocked the baby beetle's tower down.
My lovely tower. My tower's ruined again. It was the silly oak tree's fault, he said out loud.
So little Bubble started again, but this time he moved out from under the old oak tree. He was stacking the blocks on top of each other when his friends Berry the snail, Dolly the ladybug, and Stanley the stag beetle came walking over.
Wow, you've built a beautiful tower, Bubble, they all said. Yes, it's nearly finished. All I have to do is put the red triangle on the very top.
But then the wind blew and toppled his tall tower. Bubble got very angry.
I don't believe it. I don't want to build towers anymore. I'm going home.
His friends ran after him.
Bubble, wait! Why don't we rebuild your tower together? No, I don't want to build towers anymore. You can't build a really high tower with this many blocks anyway,
grumbled. He went into his house and slammed the door shut.
How can we help Bubble?
Dolly puzzled.
We've got to think of a way to cheer him up somehow.
I know what we can do, Stanley said. I've got another set of building blocks at home. I'll go and fetch them so we can build a really high tower together.
That's a super idea. I've a box full of building blocks too. And I'll bring mine. We'll build the tallest tower ever.
Berry pulled his blocks in a little trailer. Dolly pushed hers in a wheelbarrow, and Stanley carried his in a big basket.
Hello, Bubble. Look, we brought our building blocks. Why don't we build a big tower together?
Dolly asked nicely.
We could build it in your house so that the wind won't knock it down again, Berry added. Goodness me, look at all those building blocks. We'll be able to build a very big tower with them,
the baby beetle said with a smile. And now it's time to pop the red triangle on the top. You should put it on, Bubble, Stanley suggested.
Hooray! It's finished!
They all shouted together. Then Berry, Dolly and Stanley said goodnight to Bubble. The baby beetle went to bed very happy that night. He stared at the tower until he fell fast asleep.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The rainbow. It was a rainy summer day. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the snail sat sadly underneath a giant leaf. Then the sun came out and the sky was blue again. But the shower didn't stop. And soon a colourful rainbow stretched across the sky.
It's beautiful,
they shouted. Berry thought it would be a good idea to climb up the rainbow and slide down on the other side. But his first try didn't work.
I think I'll try from the other side, he said. Trust me, you can't climb a rainbow, Dolly said to the excited snail.
But then Berry came up with a new plan.
I'll use a ladder.
Oh, Berry, I don't think it's a good idea, Dolly said anxiously. Dolly was right, and Berry was angry. Dolly tried to distract her friend.
Come and play something else.
But Berry still didn't give up.
Look, Dolly, I'm sure I can jump on top of it from here.
But that idea didn't work either. Dolly ran over to Berry.
Are you all right?
I'm fine, Berry sulked. Berry was very sad, and Dolly tried everything to cheer him up.
I got you some flowers,
she said kindly, but Berry couldn't be comforted. Then the rain dried up and the rainbow disappeared. They walked home hand in hand, and Dolly said nice things to the little snail.
Chin up, Berry. It's your birthday the day after tomorrow, and I'm sure you'll get some super presents.
Dolly had a great idea when she got home.
I'll make a rainbow slide for Berry's birthday, she said to herself. Then his dream can come true and he can slide down a rainbow.
Balthazar the bee and Flutter the butterfly helped her. Balthazar, Dolly and Flutter painted the slide with colourful paint, wrapped it in yellow paper and tied it up with a blue ribbon. The three friends even baked a cake for Berry. When the time came, Balthazar and Flutter took Berry to Dolly's house, where everything was ready for the birthday party.
Let's give him his presents,
yelled Balthazar, and Dolly gave Berry the chocolate cake.
A real rainbow. A rainbow slide. Can I try the slide? Sure you can, Dolly replied.
Berry liked the rainbow slide very much. He slid on it again and again. Flutter and Balthazar were so happy they started to dance.
You know, Dolly, said Berry, it really is a nice present. Thank you.
Lots of friends joined in the birthday celebrations. There was Leapy the grasshopper, Eddie the potato beetle, Zephyr the dragonfly, and even Stanley the stag beetle came. The little snail let everybody try his new slide. Berry, Dolly and their friends played on the slide until it got dark. Berry went to bed very happy that day.
What a wonderful birthday I've had,
he sighed with a smile.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Alfonzo's Fiddle. One autumn day, Alfonzo the cricket stood happily playing his fiddle in the mushroom field. The forest friends were all enjoying the lovely music. The little ants were playing football on the hill. But oh dear, the ball bounced away and knocked the fiddle clean out of Alfonzo's hands. Alfonzo shouted in horror.
My fiddle! My fiddle's broken!
And then he burst into tears. He was sobbing so loudly that everyone came to see what the fuss was all about. Alfonzo pointed angrily at the spotty ball.
That ball is to blame, and those naughty ants. Where am I going to get a fiddle from now?
He picked his broken fiddle up, went into his house and slammed the door shut behind him.
Alfonso, come out. I'm sure we can help you,
Berry pleaded. But Alfonzo didn't want to see anybody. His friends sat sadly in the mushroom field and didn't know what to do. Then Dolly had an idea.
I know. Let's make Alfonzo a new fiddle. Yes, let's make a new fiddle, Flutter the butterfly nodded. I know who can help us. We have to find Charlie the click beetle. He made Alfonzo's first fiddle.
The band of friends set off and walked until they reached a blue house. They knocked on the door. A tiny, timid beetle popped his head out. He wore a blue hat and had beautiful dark blue wings.
Who are you?
He asked. Dolly told Charlie the whole story.
Oh, don't be sad. If that's your problem, I'm happy to help. Alfonzo will be playing music on his new fiddle in no time at all.
The click beetle gave everybody a job to do. Some collected wood for the body of the fiddle, while others gathered grass for the strings. Now he had everything he needed. Charlie got to work. He sawed, sanded, polished and waxed. And then, like a little miracle, the new fiddle was ready.
Can I try it?
Dolly asked.
No, it's Alfonso's instrument,
Flutter told her.
but I want to have my own musical instrument.
Dolly sulked.
Me too,
The little ants shouted.
Quiet,
Said Charlie.
why don't you all start an orchestra? A great big orchestra. Like a music band? And everybody could have their own instrument?
That's a very good idea.
The first thing they made was a harp for Dolly. Stanley the stag beetle got a double bass, and Eddie the potato beetle had a cello. Berry made a trumpet out of a lily. Morris the maybug made a horn from a honeysuckle flower. The big spider used horse chestnuts and acorns for drums, whilst Zephyr and Leapy made cymbals out of pebbles. Charlie carved flutes from birch twigs for the ants. Flutter the butterfly got a lute, and Balthazar the bee got a zither. Bubble the baby beetle played a triangle. They all had a quick practice and then headed for Alfonso's house. Alfonso heard the music and looked out of his window to see where it was coming from. He was surprised by what he saw.
Please, Alfonso,
The little ant began.
don't be mad at us for breaking your fiddle. We'd like you to have this new one as a present. Charlie made it.
Alfonso began to play straight away, and the sound of his fiddle filled the forest once more.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The Sandcastle. On a sunny summer day, Berry, Dolly, Bubble and Balthazar put on their swimming costumes, grabbed their buckets and spades, and set out for Sand Island to build castles.
Look at this huge watermelon.
Balthazar said in surprise.
Oh, let's take it with us. Then we can all have a feast at the end of the day.
OK, Berry, we'll take it.
Berry, Dolly, Balthazar and Bubble carefully rolled the watermelon in front of them. But when the friends got to the top of the hill, the round watermelon started to roll away down the slope.
Stop it!
Dolly shouted to the others. Bubble pounced on the watermelon, but he couldn't stop it. The baby beetle slipped off and bumped his head. The juicy watermelon just carried on rolling. They all ran after it as fast as they could, but the watermelon was much faster than all of them. Then a terrible thing happened. The watermelon got to the bottom of the hill and smashed into a sharp rock.
Our lovely watermelon smashed into pieces.
Oh, the watermelon.
Balthazar was very sad too.
Why are you all complaining? Let's eat it instead.
The baby beetle suggested. So the four friends sat down and started to munch on the watermelon. They ate the sweet red fruit until their tummies were full.
We'd better hurry to Sand Island, or there'll be no time left to build sandcastles.
Dolly, wait for me. I'll fly with you.
Balthazar said.
Me too.
Bubble added.
But I can't fly. Are you three going to leave me here? Berry asked with a sad sob.
Let's build boats out of the watermelon rind. This way Berry can sail to the island with us,
Balthazar suggested.
They selected 4 strong pieces of melon rind. 1 for Dolly, 1 for Berry, 1 for Balthazar, and 1 for Bubble. They made the masts out of strong branches and the sails out of large leaves. When they were done, they launched the little boats on the water, and the wind quickly carried them away to Sand Island.
Hooray! We're sailing, Berry said with an excited squeak.
They all got to Sand Island with plenty of time left to play.
Look, someone's coming, and he's got a bucket in his hand.
Indeed, there was a cheerful beetle walking towards them on the sandy shore.
Who are you?
Dolly asked.
I'm Sean, the sand beetle. I live here and was about to build a sandcastle.
Really?
Balthazar asked.
Can we join you?
Of course you can. Let's all build together, Sean said with joy.
The 5 of them built a grand sandcastle with all kinds of tunnels, towers and bridges.
Now all it needs is a flag on top,
Dolly said. So she drew a picture of Sean on a leaf and stuck it in the very top of the castle.
That looks super! Does that mean it's my sandcastle now?
Sean said enthusiastically. When the sun went in, Dolly and her friends said goodbye to Sean and headed home.
Good night, King of the Castle!
Dolly shouted, waving goodbye to their new friend.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The Mushroom's Cap. Berry, Dolly, Balthazar, Flutter, Stanley and Bubble all set off for a long walk in the woods. They were strolling happily along when they heard someone crying.
It's coming from behind that bush,
Berry whispered to the others. They saw a little mushroom crying, and he looked odd because he didn't have a cap.
Who took your cap?
Dolly asked in her kindest voice.
I don't know. It was missing when I woke up this morning.
Don't worry, we'll help you. We'll find you another cap, Berry reassured the miserable mushroom. The friends all ran back to their houses and returned carrying all kinds of different caps and hats.
We've brought some new hats to try,
they said, and tried them all on the mushroom's head in turn. Dolly put her dotted hat on him first, but it didn't seem to suit the mushroom at all. Then Flutter put her witch's hat on his head.
But I don't want to be a nasty witch,
the mushroom grumbled. Then Bubble produced a yellow baseball cap, but it was too small. Berry was next to try. I've brought 2 hats. This is my gardening hat, and this is my devil's hat. The gardening hat looked funny on the mushroom's head, but he wasn't happy.
I don't like this one,
he said in a sullen voice. The devil's hat made him even angrier.
I'm not a little devil, you know,
he shouted with a red face. But he got most upset when Balthazar showed him the red saucepan.
But this is a saucepan. I can't go around with a silly saucepan.
It's not a normal saucepan,
Balthazar replied sharply.
It's our snowman's hat.
The last one to try was Stanley the stag beetle, who had brought a top hat for the mushroom.
Oh, I quite like the look of this one,
the mushroom enthused.
But can't you find my old cap? That's the one I want to wear the most.
So the forest friends started to search for the mushroom's spotty cap. 3 canary chicks suddenly flew by.
We know where the mushroom's cap is. We saw 3 woodworms using it for a rowing boat. Everywhere and down to the stream, Dolly shouted. And sure enough, 3 woodworms were singing and rowing along in the mushroom's cap.
Give the mushroom his cap back,
Berry shouted.
but we promised to go visit our friends the fleas. We need a boat to get to their house. But that's a cap,
Not a boat, and it belongs to the mushroom. Give it back to him, Berry argued. The woodworms eventually gave in and gave the cap back.
But how will we go and see the fleas now?
They asked sadly.
We can take you. We're flying to the little island.
The 3 canary chicks twittered.
Hooray! We're going to fly!
The woodworms shouted and jumped for joy. But we have to take the mushroom his cap back first.
You mean the boat?
The naughty woodworms chuckled, but Dolly gave them one of her serious looks and they stopped laughing.
Thank you so much.
The mushroom said with a big smile as he put it on his head.
It fits just perfectly.
The woodworms hopped onto the canaries' backs.
Have a safe trip.
The mushroom shouted. Enjoy the flight, the others added. The forest friends all said a final goodbye to the mushroom and walked home with their hats on their heads.